Hello and welcome to a recording of the presentation that was completed for our information session for 2023 prospective enrolments. My name is Liam Ahern. I'm the Elizabeth Blackburn Sciences Coordinator, and here I am going to take you through the presentation and information that will support you, your families and carers in deciding whether Elizabeth Blackburn Sciences is the right move for your student. Firstly, before we begin, it was important for us to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which Elizabeth Blackburn resides. We acknowledge the elders and descendants of the Wurundjeri people who have been and are the custodians of the lands in which we present to you. And wherever you are watching this recording, it's really important that we advocate and continue on the proud tradition and recognition of our First Nations people. Some important people to know in terms of prospective enrolments, and then also once a member of the Elizabeth Blackburn community for 2023. We have Michael Foster, who's the Assistant Principal. Part of his portfolio is managing the centre and the program. We have Fraser Henry, who's Head of Inquiry Learning, plays an important role in supporting the Extended Investigations Program and team, who you will hear from later on in this presentation. Jennifer Skeels, who's the Enrolment Registrar at University High School, will support us with our enrolment component of the entrance for 2023, and she will liaise with you and certainly play an important role for any prospective international students as well. More on that later. And myself, who I've already introduced. So 2014 was our first year coming into existence. We have been open for nearly 8 years now, or just on 8 years, and very much in our infancy in terms of the lifespan of a school. We're very proud of where we've come from, and I guess the origin and having that connection to Melbourne University, because we see a range of other schools that have been set up with a really strong STEM affiliation through La Trobe, through Monash. So it was obviously in terms of our proximity to one of the world's best research areas in biomedicine, with Walter and Eliza Hall Institute, Florey Institute, Doherty, Bio21, who we have connections with and we look to engage with as often as we can. So Professor Elizabeth Blackburn, our namesake, why it was important to recognise her contribution. Well, in terms of her legacy that she leaves for the research community and the scientific community, certainly in Melbourne and I guess the whole world. She was the first female Nobel laureate for Australia in 2009 with her work on the telomerase enzyme in restoration of, I guess, the ends of chromosomes and what impact that have on lifespan of organisms. So we see that Professor Blackburn both attended University High School and also the University of Melbourne. So it was a logical choice that we celebrated her work and really set up a culture in which celebrates the achievements and the prospective achievements, the potential achievements of those that follow in her footsteps. The goals that we set, it's very much the mantra of school to bench to work. It's about taking our learnings, applying those learnings and really extending students' vision into that research sphere and that STEM sphere to have a global impact and an impact on the research community and the scientific community, whether that's environmental, chemical, biological, or physical. That's all part of the experience of Elizabeth Blackburn that we look to provide to inspire, to innovate, and to link into community. And community will be something that I touch on quite frequently throughout this presentation. So in terms of the profile, what the facility is equipped and designed to house is a maximum of 200 students. So that's 100 in Year 11 and Year 12. We see that the bottom level is designated for or dedicated to the Year 11 space, and I'll take you through that. And upstairs is very much about the centre for our Year 12 students. We don't sit on 200 at the moment. We've found that the program fits nicely around that 70-75 mark, and that's sort of been our intention over the last few years to maintain that population. We feel like it's a great number of students to have in that space, but each year we review and reflect, and we see what the next tranche of students, the next perspective, the next aspirants bring. So here we have one of two student workplaces. This is the space designated for Year 11 students. So this will be where the new tranche of students will reside, and they have their locker bay set up in very close proximity to the staff room, which we can see cycling around now with a panoramic. And we really want to make sure that it's very much a connected space between staff and students. We have lots of continuity of connection. So each day we see the same students, which is not always the case that we'd see in a large, in a Melbourne school. We're certainly around the 1,800 student mark that we see at University High School. So connection is really important for us, certainly for the new students entering into the program at Year 11. We see that the lockers, the novelty lockers of the periodic table, are a great touch and really sort of connect students, I guess, to the sentiment and the ideas that we're trying to really sort of I guess promote and that inspiration to connect into a STEM program at tertiary level and beyond. We can also see the theaterette there. We've got toilet facilities downstairs as well as upstairs and lift access as well. We also see kitchenette space that we really want students to be proud of, and they have dishwasher facilities, hot cold water facilities, so tea and coffee making, and I guess to have that space, to have that continuity and something to be really proud of, really starts to build that community, that connection, that pride of place. So the EB10 theaterette, that was visible, the entrance was visible very much from the foyer from the previous slide. So this is our 200-seat theaterette. It's utilised equally by Year 11s and Year 12s. Typically, if we've got maths or science on at the same time between Year 11s and Year 12s, you'll see that this will be the science-based lecture theatre, given that it's on the same level as the EB13 lab, which we'll see very soon. So a really warm, welcoming space, very open, very I guess versatile in how we use it. We utilise it for staff, professional learning as well after school. We have in terms of hearing support, hearing assisted technologies that can link in as well. We utilise this for TSFX, which use our facilities for their sort of support programs, the tutoring programs that they run. We can see a nice little picture there of Professor Blackburn welcoming the first cohort of students through the program. So the EB10 theaterette, it sort of has a sort of semi-wet lab area as well. So we see that the chemistry and the physics and biology teachers can do demonstrations in that space. The portable fume cupboard, nice big ICT system, which we've upgraded recently as well. EB13 laboratory, first thing we want to recognise is the wonderful work that Miss Vicky Vidola has done over the entirety of the length of the Elizabeth Blackburn program, and has a really key role in supporting students through their extended investigation practical components. EB13 lab can house up to 52 students, around about the 50 mark, which we see can be anywhere between a full program for either physics or biology, or we can run multiple prac sessions for some of the larger classes in chemistry. The idea was very much to sort of have a hybrid between the existing experience of perhaps what we would see in high school and moving more towards what the look and feel of a tertiary laboratory would look and feel like. It really is about that sort of that link to what tertiary life looks like in a nice sort of an environment of continuity. So we see ICT rich, we've got multiple display points, TVs, we have lots of equipment, lots of data logging, which I'll talk about later on. We've got 2 biosafety cabinets, so for students to conduct aseptic technique for their gel plates, which we see is a common feature for the work that we see in extended investigations, if it's going to be for the life sciences or biological sciences approach. So with the laboratory, we see it's utilised for the following 4 subjects as part of the Elizabeth Blackburn program. I'll talk more about the subject, the key program that we really encourage and I guess, set up for our students. And with the data logging equipment, because we don't really know what students are going to conduct each year with the extended investigations and some of the investigations that are conducted in VCE Sciences at the moment, we wanted to make sure that we'd set the lab up in a way that we were able to, I guess, provide for students for a range of primary data exercises. So lots of wonderful equipment. If I sort of talk about particular examples in the biological sciences, we've got dissolved O2, we've got CO2, we've got a range of different ion monitors that we can use for the presence or the lack of salts in water, turbidity. So we can do lots of sort of eco-science, water quality investigations, which links in nicely with the work in Unit 2 chemistry as well. Lots of physics equipment that sort of looks at force sensors, motion gates, so we can look at acceleration vectors, sort of collision force, aerodynamics, and lots of weird and wonderful equipment. So we really do pride ourselves on providing a really contemporary experience for students with a particular focus on Pascal equipment that we've invested heavily, and we have students really getting their hands dirty. Obviously with gloves on, and getting that authentic experience in the laboratory. Workspace 2, this is the upstairs breakout area for our Year 12s. We see that the maths team really like to utilise this space for tutorials, which should operate outside of the timetable for much smaller groups. And this is just a wonderful study space, really comfy. It really sort of reminds you of university libraries that, we see these students really, extending their friendships in this space, really working hard to support one another, and also some downtime just to connect and reflect as well.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your interest in Elizabeth Blackburn Sciences. It's very exciting that you're considering us as your next education step and that you've made the effort to drop by. I'm Fraser Henry, the Head of Inquiry Learning here at the University High School. My role at EBIS is to support and develop the Extended Investigation Program, one of the more unique subjects and experiences we offer at our school. In a nutshell, Extended Investigation provides an opportunity for students to conduct a year-long research project on a topic of their choice. A topic students can really sink their teeth into and develop an in-depth knowledge of. In this subject, students have the power to direct their own learning and experience an authentic taste of what real scientific research looks like. So rather than follow a set curriculum, Extended Investigation allows students to set their own learning path. In previous years, students have investigated topics such as how mosquito saliva may be used as an anticoagulant in medicine, how plastic-consuming bacteria could help fight our ocean's pollution problem, and how anti-solar cells can be modified to enhance their ability to harvest energy in the night. So we get a very diverse range of topics and really encourage students to follow their interests and curiosities in this subject. On top of developing their own research question in a field of their own passion, students are exposed to and develop a range of academic skills, giving them a leg up when transitioning to tertiary education. And we extend their integral capabilities to in communication, critical thinking, and collaboration. Along with the support of their teachers, the program embraces the academic community surrounding EBIS by connecting with researchers in nearby facilities, including the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute of Medical Research, Bio21, the University of Melbourne, Monash University, and the Murdoch Children's Research Institute, to name a few. This year we have conducted a stream of seminars presented by academics and researchers where students have been able to hear about contemporary research ideas and practices, have exposure to what it is like to be a real researcher, and most importantly, have the opportunity to discuss and seek guidance on their own research projects. So ultimately, we tap into the connections within our Parkville learning community to expose our students to tertiary science mentors and provide an authentic learning environment. So whilst this is a challenging subject for students, we find it is often the most rewarding experience and highly value this subject as a cornerstone within the program at Elizabeth Blackburn Sciences. So that's a little bit of what I wanted to share for you. Hopefully it gives you a little bit more insight into what extended investigation is all about and gets you excited about this subject. Thank you so much, and please feel free to contact me on my email, fhenry@unihigh.vic.gov.au if you'd like any more questions.
So the structure at University High School as it currently stands is what also is extended to Elizabeth Blackburn Sciences, because we do like to integrate with that timetable. Or more on that, and I guess the rationale shortly. So 50-minute lessons, 8:40 to 3:20, and we see that each session is 50 minutes. So that means recess and lunch are also 50 minutes. So nice and consistent, plenty of recess and lunch to catch up with teachers, catch up with students, with one another, and across a fairly consistent timetable. In Year 11, students will complete 6 subjects, and Year 12 will complete 5 subjects. It's really important that we sort of look to maximise the program and not exceed or go beyond those numbers, because that really does start to have that the cost benefit really starts to wane. So if we have a student doing 6 subjects and 1 subject outside, so maybe doing language at VSL, that really does start to create a fairly challenging space for Elizabeth Blackburn students. We certainly look to support students that elect to do that. That is very much a personal choice and not something the school can, I guess, shape too heavily, certainly for the languages. We look to accommodate and try and stick to the 6 and 11 and 5 in Year 12 to really get that balance right. But it very much is a case-by-case relationship. In terms of the time commitment, we see both Year 11 and Year 12 are 5 scheduled sessions, so that means that we have some fluidity between the Year 11s in Year 12 in terms of they can complete a wide variety of Year 12 subjects when they're in Year 11 as well. A sample program, so what the week might look like. Timetables are always subject to change each year. This is a reflection of a timetable from 2020 and 2021. Slight variation in 2022 and perhaps again in 2023. But I think it just gives you a good idea of the idea of that there's 3 single sessions and a double session, and that double session is really looking to emphasize that practical experience, that I guess the collaborative experience too, in terms of breakout rooms and tutorials and that teacher support and looking to really I get that saturated learning, that really connected learning taking place. And it's not just lecture based. That's not what we do. You'll see that physics and biology are on together. I'll speak to that in a slide coming up. So with the Elizabeth Blackburn program in 2023, this is a typical program. This is what we really do encourage as students, because we feel like this caters best for STEM pathways, but we do also know that there's plenty of students out there that are wanting some variations with their programs as well. Now, in terms of the variations, this is sort of catered for as much as possible. It is a case-by-case basis, and it does take place after a student is offered a place at University High School. So we will offer a program in consultation with what the program is that you would like most, and we will do our very best to accommodate any variations. But it certainly is in I guess our best interest to keep that community together. We see that there's continuity in classes for chemistry, methods, specialist, extended investigations, physics, and/or biology. So you're keeping that core group together, but also, as I said, we really want to recognise what variations might look like. I've got some some examples of where we've seen variation in the past. Now, because Year 11 students can do a maximum of 6 subjects, and we see that the 5 listed in terms of the English study, so literature, language, EAL if you qualify, or just regular English. These are the offerings, and they're all offered. Chemistry, methods, specialist, and extended investigations are really core component to Year 11. So we really do like to avoid any sort of manipulation or students not being part of that that aspect. Now, if we've got a Year 10 student who's currently completing a Year 11 subject, we absolutely want to support that student with continuity of that program into their Year 11 year. So let's just say if it was, say, French 1 and 2, Unit 1 and 2, it was Latin Unit 1 and 2, IT we would look to try and integrate that in a space that made the most sense. And that's typically in the space where we see physics or biology. As mentioned, those above 5 are really core to our belief to setting up a really a well-rounded STEM platform for university, because these are the subjects that will be and the skills required of of a first year student. So physics or biology, because that's there's only 6 possible. So we see also that many of our students coming into year 11 have already started their VCE journey with biology. So it makes sense that we only offer unit 3 and 4. Now we do offer unit 1 and 2, that is part of the mainstream program. We usually have a few students that like to do that to balance out the program, certainly if they're doing already 2 year 12 subjects. So that certainly can be catered for, but we see the majority of our students aligning to unit 3 and 4 biology. We put physics and biology on at the same time. That's the conscious choice, because we sort of see that as the separation in terms of whether a student wants to go into engineering or into the life sciences. Now we do see in year 12 we can compensate for, if you're sort of forced into that choice of choosing between physics or biology and you want to do both. Well, we certainly see that specialist mathematics supports physics and vice versa. So the opportunity could be that you do physics 3-4 after you complete 3-4 biology. Another thing that we really like to promote is university extension subjects. Now, obviously, COVID sort of generated a lot of disruption in that space, but the on-site learning, given our proximity to University of Melbourne, we really love to, encourage students to step into that space. So when thinking about your VCE journey and thinking about Elizabeth Blackburn, really do try and think about, if you're completing a year 12 subject in year 11, is there, and it's called UMEP, UMEP, University of Melbourne Extension Program. It's not the only one that we're looking to promote. We obviously have a very strong connection with Melbourne University, but we also don't look to limit that. So for other universities out there as well, there's some incredible opportunities to actually start your tertiary journey in year 12. Something that I think that can really benefit a student, and that transition, that step up into that tertiary sphere the year after, is not actually much of a leap. It's just more of the same as what you've experienced in year 12. So something very, very much to consider. And also, given our as a reminder of our proximity to Melbourne University, perhaps that should be a real goal. So here we have 2 programs that show subtle variation to what was listed in the previous slide. So I want to bring your attention to Chemistry Unit 3-4 being shown in this particular program here, because we do have some students that have already started doing Unit 1 and 2 in Year 10. That would be more closely aligned with students that are in a SEAL program, a Select Entry Accelerated Learning program, which University High School does have. So we look to cater for those students. And given that that student has completed 3-4 chemistry, they should be perhaps considering that university extension subject in chemistry or a chemistry related field, depending on what is being offered by that tertiary institution. So 2 Year 12 subjects in Year 11 means that perhaps maybe only doing 4 Year 12 subjects. A university extension does contribute to your ATAR, but it only contributes as your 6th subject as a maximum. And there's more information on that available to extend. You can do a quick little Google search, won't take you too long. Melbourne University, RMIT, Monash, Victoria University, they're all institutions that offer those programs, and that's just off the top of my head. Another program variation that we see there is if a student wants to do a language in 2023. And what we see there is that biology and physics are the most commonly dropped off subject to do, and that might be at the expense of continuity of the Unit 1 and 2 into Unit 3-4 course. But the benefit of that continuity with the language outweighs the cost of not having continuity with that biology. So that's where we can see variations lying. The more complex, the less likely that we can provide, because we start to see if there's restrictions in the timetable, if it's only a single subject that's being offered, that can be a little bit more problematic in trying to line all of that up. And the real emphasis is staying together and being that research community and being that STEM community and wanting to spend as much time with each other as possible, with the exception of English, which is We see that's mixed with the university high school population, and that's a real emphasis on, I guess, making sure that our Elizabeth Blackburn students feel connected to university high school. They are university high school students, and I'll talk about extracurricular programs and why there's such a benefit to be part of uni high. So to integrate those students and have them connected at the integration through the English program is really important, where we can see that these students can make connection with lifelong friends from their Year 12 year. And we see that year in, year out, and we really value that component of the program. So as mentioned, community is something that I definitely reiterate several times throughout this presentation. This is what we really value. We've got our goals for the program, but what we really value is that there is trust between students. They spend a lot of time together. They've taken a leap into this VCE select entry program, this passion pathway, and supporting one another and trusting one another in facilities that are state of the art. And create these really strong connections and into tertiary programs. And I'll talk about how students sort of transition into tertiary programs where the 2018 and 19 cohorts have gone to, and sort of what sort of proportion of fields that they've moved into. In terms of encouragement of curiosity, we really look to not celebrate academic success in terms of raw numbers, but the journey and really recognizing that. And the poster symposium through the extended investigations is a great example of reflecting on student progress and not student outcome. It's about progress, and we really encourage that curiosity through extended investigations, the research investigations through the VCE sciences, excellence in teaching and learning that really do sort of foster that curiosity that really sets up those students for the future in those STEM fields. So we celebrate our work, we encourage curiosity, we really trust and value one another in this space, and that's really central to what we do and how we do it. So here's a little snapshot of our data for the last I guess for the entirety of our lifespan from a Year 12 point of view, given that 2014 was our first Year 11 cohort. So you can see that we do have some fairly consistent and sustained success from an ATAR point of view. If that's a benchmark we want to utilize, it's not the only thing that we look at. We certainly look at pathways is really the key thing. We want students that are passionate about STEM going into STEM related fields. 2020, apologies for the lack of ATAR data above 80, 90, 95. I'll get that up at some point and make that a little bit more visible. There's usually a few websites out there that can sort of do some crunching of study scores if you really want to do a bit of a deep dive with Elizabeth Blackburn. It's not really something we want to promote because we don't want to overemphasize that that's sort of part of the fold. We know that people are interested in it. We want to share that data. In 2021, we saw some incredible scores above 99, or just a really high achieving group. And even 2020 to have scores of a program of maximum of 75 students, and to have that many scores above 99 in that space and over really challenging few years is real something. It's testament to those students and the support they've received along the way. In terms of tertiary pathways and sort of transition into that space, and as I've touched on, really hoping that students really buy into the idea of these extension subjects to make that step just that little less far. We do crunch the data each year, and we look at this in terms of where our pathways are, and does this support, I guess, the intent of the program. And so this is data that we've got from 2018 and 2019. I haven't had an opportunity to crunch the 2020 numbers yet, but we do see fairly consistent sort of numbers. I think it's really important that we see the high prevalence of STEM pathways. Not to say that we don't get students that are multidisciplinary, and it's wonderful that we have arts law students coming through, and just shows you the talent associated with those students being in a STEM program and still being able to achieve in such a wonderful sphere as well in the arts, and the contribution in that space too. And so we see in the 2019 cohort, a really high number went to University of Melbourne, so predominantly science and biomedical science, with a few in engineering as well. And then we see a range of distributions into different universities as well. Monash University is quite popular too, because we see lots of students from the southeastern suburbs travelling to Elizabeth Blackburn, and so obviously it would make sense from a lifestyle point of view and a travel point of view to be close to Monash Uni, which is also a wonderful institution as well. As we see also with the other like ACU, RMIT, and some of the programs that they offer there too. So given that Elizabeth Blackburn is a program that exists within the ecosystem of University High School, I guess we want to, why is that the case? Why is that by design? Well, it is really good to be part of Uni High. We see that by being connected to, we get to students get to engage and experience in, a high performing, really vibrant culture, a really connected community. So into school sport, debating, leadership programs through SRC, subcommittees. We've got a sustainability committee, a community engagement committee, buildings and grounds, finance. So students can be part of those, as well as the overall school council committee as well. Instrumental music is a big feature of our school too. Very proud tradition of the space in instrumental music classes and ensembles that students can connect in with, and obviously school musicals as well, which is we've unfortunately gone without for the last few years, but it's back on this year, and students are very excited to be able to connect with that. So looking ahead, I guess sort of, what is it that it looks like, and these are for 2023, for our 2023 entrance. So in terms of the entrance exam, it's going to be the morning of the 16th of July. It's sort of flagged to be around 9 o'clock in the morning. So hopefully it won't be too much disruption for your day. In terms of the components of the exam, reading comprehension, numerical reasoning, verbal reasoning, and obviously mathematics as well. So in terms of, there's lots of questions that come through about how to prepare. I'm not necessarily stating that you have to or should. There's very much an individual choice of whether to pay EduTest to participate in these practice tests, which they do come with a cost. Other ways that you can support your preparation for the entrance exam is by doing so those extracurricular science competitions that come up, so the quizzes. So there's ICAS, ASI Big Science, ASI Junior Olympiad. If we're talking between the year 7, year 10 sort of space, you can look at NAPLAN style questions as well, just to get a sense of some of those the ways in which these the questions have been modelled off. If you're not looking to pay and sort of if that's a decision that you wish to make. There are costs. There are free practice exams that you can do, as mentioned, with ICAS, ASI, Big Science, but you'd have to go through EduTest and explore that pathway. I guess we're letting you know what's out there. We're not sort of endorsing or encouraging a particular direction. So as mentioned, Jennifer Skills is our enrolment registrar at University High School. Please get in contact with her if you are on a bridging visa and you are an international student, because University High School can cater for international students, but there are certain categories or subcategories that qualify, and there are some that don't. So we don't want to get through this path, this process, and get to the end and go, well, we can't offer you a place because it doesn't meet the category or subcategory that lines up with the University High School's capabilities of support in that space. So Jennifer Skills, please send your email to universityhighschooleducation.vic.gov.au, and she will support you in clarifying whether it's possible or not, so that you know that going through this process is going to be possible. So next steps, the entrance exam, as mentioned, is on the 16th of July. 9 a.m. is sort of the rough time that I've been advised. We will be advised within 5 business days of the results that come through. We'll go through a shortlisting, invite interviews early in term 3 or mid to early term 3. again, interviews around that sort of space, and then offers late term 3. So we really do try to get some clarity and get these decisions made quickly, so that gives you some confidence in what the program is going to look like for 2023 and what your schooling is going to look like in BCE. So that's the rough timeline. We will advise you at each step. Those students that aren't offered an interview will be advised. We don't want to leave people in the lurch. It's not something that we like to tell students, but it's something that's important to be not operating in uncertainty. So we'll be in contact as soon as we can, so that you give some do some clear directions and next steps for you personally. And finally, this we'll get to what takes place after an offer is accepted. We really pride ourselves on the orientation that we provide at the end of the academic year in preparation for our next steps. So this takes place for Year 11s into Year 12, but this program listed here is unique to our new Year 11 students. So what we see is that there's a 3-day on-site event early December. It also features an overnight camp, which is really, facilitates that connection. And we really do focus on connection and lots of opportunities for students to get to know each other. We share what train line we get to school on, look to, what are some of the routines and rituals. So, we'd like to get to school early, who we're going to study with, what sporting team. So we're really looking for that, those cultural artifacts that really create that connection with our new students coming into the program. We want to access teachers early and as early as possible with as much efficacy and effect as possible, and we utilize our LMS through Google Classroom to really prepare our students for the forthcoming academic year. We also, so we generate university high school accounts. We get students connected to their teachers, their Google Classroom, Enrollo as well, which is a key feature of our VCE programs and supporting students with their content knowledge. And in terms of enrolment, there was a few questions that came through in the original information session about fees. We still are a government school, so we still follow all the rules set out by DET, and it is a voluntary financial contribution. If you wish to explore that more, just go through the Victorian Government, the Department of Education and Training website, and there's more information about fees. But our fees are in line with all government schools, so there's no sort of hidden costs or anything like that. So, high quality, genuinely high quality standard of care and facilities for what is a very well-equipped government school in a very well-connected area and a high-achieving area in terms of its contribution globally with Florey, Doherty, Wee High by 21. So yeah, thank you so much for listening in. I hope that I've covered off on most of your questions. Please get in contact via the school website. They'll send inquiries through to me, or you can do ebs@unihigh.vic.edu.au, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks very much.